Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for March the 11th, 2021. This is episode number 49. Our top stories today: Canoo presents electric pickup truck plans, Toyota teases an upcoming electric crossover SUV, and the Kia EV6 gets teased ahead of its debut. I'm Dominic Ioni, Inside EV's forum moderator and Inside EV's editor. Joining us today is Tom Moloughney, Inside EV's editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge with Tom Moloughney. We also have Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, available on all your usual podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from Out of Spec Studios on the road somewhere. He also puts together magically fantastical videos for the Inside EV's YouTube channel. Please subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications. If you like the podcast, please leave us a rating or maybe even a review on whichever platform you catch us on. This helps others discover us and spread the word about EVs. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love a thumbs up there as well. Okay, so welcome, gentlemen of the panel and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. Let's kick it off by asking Kyle where the heck he is and what's going on. Oh, you're muted.
Hey guys,
Okay.
I hope you can hear me okay. The audio was pretty bad there, so this may not work, but we'll try it. Driving in the new Audi A6 All-Road to the McLaren dealership in Denver because we are going to go test out, or I should say not test out, but walk-arounds of two Koenigsegg's, one of them being a plug-in hybrid, the Gemera, which will be really interesting. It has a 15 kilowatt-hour battery pack, something like 1,500 horsepower altogether. And it can do 200 kilowatt regen on a 15 kilowatt hour pack, which I just think is super impressive.
Nice.
Everything about Koenigsegg is impressive. They build some of the world's fastest, most expensive, best handling Swedish hypercars, and really excited to go check these two out in person at McLaren Denver.
Always some interesting engineering to it. Do you know if that Gemera has the Rimac battery or power management system in it?
Yeah, not totally sure about this one or how production ready it is or anything like this. It's sort of last night we got the call that said, hey, you can come down and check these things out. And I'm like, well, we're not going to miss that. So here we are on the way down. And I have my laptop here. I've been reading press releases to educate myself for all the videos I'm doing.
Right on. So we're not sure if you're going to be able to hang with us the whole show or for how long, but maybe only a few minutes. But we're glad to see you. And so, yeah, let's... I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to tell us about that you've been driving this week?
What about the Taycan, the Mach-E, anything like that?
Oh, yeah, we can get into all that good stuff if you guys would like. No
Sure.
problem. So, yeah, I took the brand new Mustang Mach-E that I don't think we had on the show last week. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Anyway, I took it out to Los Angeles from here in Fort Collins in Denver. And that road trip on the way out in the new, Grabber Blue First Edition Mustang Mach-E, big battery, was pretty brutal on the way out, I have to say. The charging infrastructure, I think, was actually fine. I think it was a communication problem on the car side. The chargers kept failing, and it kept coming up as a vehicle protocol error. And it would take 5, 6, 7 times to plug and replug at each charging stop. And then I used up the 250 kilowatt hours of free energy that Ford gives you when you buy a Mustang Mach-E that you can. I started using the app to start charging on the return trip, and it was perfect. So really
Awesome.
good return trip. I think there's some issues with plug and charge.
Was that the Ford Pass app?
Nope. It's just built right into the car, the plug and charge technology. You activate it through the Ford Pass website. But you activate the chargers with just the regular Electrify America app. The problem with using plug and charge in the Mustang Mach-E is you hook your credit card up to the Ford's back-end site. So there has to be communication throughout the charging session that says, here's how much you're paying, here's how much you're paying, here's how much balance. And I think this communication midway through the session, it was what was breaking the charging session. And swiping the app on the EA side means I can use my Pass Plus membership at a discounted rate, which is not available with plug-in charge. So to me, even though the car has the functionality, I would never use it because you're paying $10, $15 or more per charging session. There's no way to link up your Electrify America $4 a month Pass Plus membership. I'm sure they'll figure out a way in the future, but it just seems like this should all be figured out well ahead of launch.
Right. Yeah, it's less than optimal for sure. Hey, I see we also have a story up today about the Taycan rear-wheel drive highway 70-mile-an-hour range test. I believe that you did that, and you have the video for us up on our website this morning.
Yep.
But they also released the EPA numbers for that car. Do you know what they are right off the top of your head?
Yeah, so the small battery is called the performance battery. It's like 78 kilowatt hours, something like this, mid 70 kilowatt hours. This is 200-mile EPA for rear-wheel drive. The large battery is 225-mile EPA, which is less than the 4S. And the reason is the 4S is able to run in a front-wheel drive setting, where the rear-wheel drive, for highway cruising is not. So the reason, tons of different reasons here. I put the video up today. The car did 293.3 miles on a 70-mile-per-hour range test. Perfect conditions, ran at 70 the whole time, pulled into the charger, the car wouldn't move, proper test, the way to do it. And really impressive result. And the car was pink, which was really funny to drive a pink Taycan.
It's great. And then the inside too, the interior has that same color scheme going on the inside, right?
It was pink with a purple interior. Yes, it's called frozen berry over blackberry interior. It's just a berry smoothie, that car. And,
I was going to say, it sounds like a berry smoothie.
Yeah, it's a really interesting spec, that's for sure. I actually loved it. I think it was so neat because this was a car they flew over from Germany to have a few journalists drive in the US, and now it's going to South America. So the way that these sort of pre-production launches work with Porsche is very different than any other automaker. They build one or two for the world, and then they rotate them around through everyone. They adapt the charge port for different markets, etc. And that just, they're not a giant manufacturer. They're not Toyota, where they can just build 50 Taycan rear-wheel drives at start of production. They're still bespoke in a greater sense of the word. They really go through everything. So awesome range test, and that was why I drove the Mustang out to Los Angeles. I was going to fly, but I promised our viewers on Out of Spec Motoring I'd get a Mustang road trip in soon. So just about 2,800 miles in the Mustang Mach-E in the last week and a half. And have to say, a lot of bugs to work out with software. The seats are not great, but the rest of the car, very comfortable, very quiet on the highway, and it is pretty good. But I would say mostly an around-town car. The charging curve is not good for a road trip.
Man, well, yeah, I was saying there's a lot to like about the Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, but like this is their first from the ground up electric, so there's like bound to be bugs and things to learn, and it looks like there are. But
yeah, big list. I mean, even things where you can't even put your heated seat on when you're in reverse, like little annoyances that come up after living with the car that you wouldn't really notice unless you really spend time with it.
That's right, and you're going to have more time with this, so you'll probably find more bugs. But I mean, that's the way with every car. There's things about the Teslas that you've owned that bug you as well. I'm not sure if they rise to this level, but still.
Yeah, look, cars are new. The good news here is most of the stuff with the Mustang can be fixed with software. This is not a hardware problem, per se. Right. This is a software problem. I really think the only hardware problem I personally have an issue with are the seats in the car. Other than that, everything can be fixed through software changes. And the biggest change that needs addressing is this charging curve. Not that it just tapers to 12 kilowatts at 80%. That's annoying, but I think we can kind of live with that for the most part. It's just the fact that you'll hit 160 kilowatt plus, but only for a few seconds. And then it tapers down to like 100, and then you're at 75 the rest of the charging session, which on a 100 kilowatt hour pack is ridiculous. So just need some adjustments here.
Right on. All right, so that's pretty. I don't know what Porsche's thinking. 293 miles, you say?
Yeah. So in Taycan rear-wheel drive, it's 293 miles, paired with that 270 kilowatt charging curve. We've proven the Taycan is the fastest road tripper out there by breaking the cannonball in it. I'm not sure if this would be better or worse. I would say comparable. You do have about a 200-pound difference between the rear-wheel drive and the the all-wheel drive. However, in range mode in the all-wheel drive cars, it decouples the rear drive unit and runs front-wheel drive. So
right. Yeah,
just a balance of what's more efficient, weight versus I guess internal drag. It went forever though. The test was like 4.5 hours or more. And it was just a long drive. I drove to LA to go drive a car to drive back is what I did the last few days.
I just think Porsche is crazy for putting. I'm sure they could put a bit higher number out there than 225 miles when the car actually goes 293. Like 250 miles would sound a lot. You're paying so much for a car.
It's not Porsche rating it; it's EPA.
Right.
So Porsche used to submit their EPA data on the large wheels, and then their acceleration testing on the baby aero wheels, because they're Porsche. They want to, basically under promise and over deliver on every front.
Sure.
When you look up Porsche 0 to 60 times on combustion vehicles like a 911 Turbo, it's done basically calculated at the top of Pikes Peak with the worst quality fuel, and so you're always going to reach that 0 to 60 time. However, the range really did hurt them, and so now for at least 4S and rear wheel drive, they're submitting the EPA numbers on. I'm not sure if it's the aero wheels, it might be the step up, but it is really helping. And so you have to say, just ignore EPA when you buy a Taycan. You can drive it as fast as you want, and you'll far exceed EPA rating.
Right on. Hey, so Tom, you have anything electric driving anything electric this week?
I don't this week, but I just want to follow up on 2 points that Kyle talked about. Number one, the 293-mile range that he got on the Taycan is actually the furthest we've done on any vehicle that we've tested so far on our 70-mile-an-hour highway range test. So that's now the range king of the Inside EV's 70-mile-an-hour highway range test. Now, we haven't done Model S, a recent Model S, and I haven't done it yet with my 2021 dual motor Model 3. And I haven't because it's cold here now, and I know that I won't get the range that I would get if I had been driving side by side with Kyle out in California, but we're going to be doing that really soon. As soon as it gets up in the 60s, 70s, I'm going to be out there, and I have a feeling there's a good chance I might beat that 293, but we'll see. And point number two is that, Kyle mentioned, and he did briefly explain that, he had a lot of problems going out with the Mach-E charging. And he and I talked about this quite a bit. And, he believes that it was mostly software on the car's end. It wasn't the charging stations. And I know we beat up a lot of the networks, one in particular, for having network connectivity issues and so forth and so on. I just want to make clear to the listeners that it's Kyle's belief, at least on the problems that he had this time, were on Ford's side, that it was the car that was creating the issues, not the charging station. So while, the networks that are out there do have reliability issues and need to improve, he doesn't believe that was the case for him having the problems on this road trip.
All right, let me interject here for a second, because I do agree with you, Tom. I do think that the problems here, like we discussed, have to do with the Ford side with plug and charge and billing. However, I spoke to Electrify America about this too, and I told them how I felt. And I said, look, you guys have certified the Mustang Mach-E to work on your network. It's in your advertising, it's in your promotion. Ford has certified that they work on your network, so much so that they're giving owners free electricity to go try out your network, right? This is the provider of Ford's juice right here. They've had Mustang Mach-E's to test for a long time. Should not be an issue at launch. This is Ford. This is the equivalent of, imagine not being able to put diesel in your F-250 right away, and you need a software update to fix the fuel filler cap. I mean, the fact that there are any hiccups, any bugs at this point between the relationship between EA and Ford, I think is truly unacceptable. However, I have to say, using the app to start charging works fine. So you can still charge, you can still get around, but it's not as advertised.
Right on.
Gotcha. And you think most of the issues centered around plug and charge?
Yeah, and honestly, I totally do think plug and charge, because on the return trip was flawless. Not one issue. The whole way out there, many issues at every station. The only difference, same temperature, same variables. The only difference is plug and charge activation, swipe to start activation. Handshake worked each time. However, the difference is, I think there's communication going on midway through charging session that the Mach-E is saying, hey, I have 10 kilowatt hours left in my free charging, and here's where you start charging. or something like this. And this is the only variable that's changed.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong, but this is what I've come to. And I got to say, Electrify America didn't say no when I told them this. So just being totally upfront, transparent. It could be on EA's side, right? Not data correctly. We don't know for sure.
And I think you're in the right direction. I'm sorry, you were breaking up. I think you're going in the right direction with that, because if you remember, some of the credit card problems that Electrify America had, when the network first came out a few years ago, sounded just like the problems you were having, where you can initiate the charge and then it shut off in like 5 minutes. It happened to me a bunch of times. And the answer that I got from Electrify America was that the credit card kept updating the fees, as you charged. So it had to keep authenticating. So to make sure, you weren't like over your credit card limit or whatever, I don't know. And during that, if just one authentication didn't connect, it dropped the session. So, and that's why going way back, like 2 years or so, we've always told our viewers and listeners on Inside EVs, if you're going to use Electrify America, don't use the credit card processors. Please download the app, become a member. Initiating the charge through the app is just so much better charging experience. And now Kyle kind of experienced that with plug and charge. So maybe this is going back to like the early days of credit cards. And hopefully they'll iron that out, because plug and charge, I mean, the whole point of the damn thing is so that you don't have any problems, and that it makes it easy. So you just pull up, plug in, and you walk away. You don't even look at the station. You don't wait for it to connect. It's just going to work like Tesla does.
That's the hardest part about this, is there's no way to monitor your charging remotely with plug and charge, because the Ford app doesn't give you real-time status of the vehicle's charging. You're using the Ford side, so my Electrify America app doesn't know that that's my car plugged in, so I can't monitor it. So I was having dinner at one particular stop. After 3 failed sessions, I was like, you know what? It's working pretty good. I'm going to go get food. I'm starving. And then just as I sit down, it said failed charging. I'm like, well, I can't leave now. So the car just sat there collecting idle fees while I was eating food. And I was just like, this is insane. So lots of issues here, seriously, that are beyond just the charging problems, just integration, user experience stuff that, I was able to figure this out in one road trip in 4 days. Someone should have thought about this over the last year and a half at minimum. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the answer really is, besides, just fix it somehow. But I mean, they've been working on fixing all these sort of issues for some time now. But it's frustrating. I feel like I want like a different company to come in and just, do what Electrify America is doing, because we need lots of chargers anyway. There's room for more than one national charging network.
Sure, but it's also the integration with the cars. Like, for example, Volvo cars, XC40, before this software update, do not charge on Signet chargers. Neither do Energica motorcycles. There's things beyond just station providers that people aren't reading the protocols correctly. It's really a giant mess right now. And honestly, the thing I come away from this trip seeing is, if you're going to road trip, let's just say Taycan, or probably more easily a Tesla at this point. Because, this whole like new EV, testing out the charging infrastructure, working out the bugs between the manufacturer and the charger companies, this is just ridiculous. I don't have problems filling up a brand new gas car like this A6 we filled up in 2 seconds at a gas station, and the nozzle fit, and it was that easy. So we just need to get there. It'll take a few years though, I think.
I will say I had the ID4 for a week, and I had no problems. But
no plug and charge, right?
No plug and charge. It's going to be, from what I understand, talking to Volkswagen, within a few months, it's going to be upgraded. And they're going to do an OTA update, and then all the new vehicles are going to come with it. So
again, should have come at lunch, and before coming today, so I'm excited to play with it.
But I remember we talked about this last week. The MEB platform has plug and charge on it, and I remember I was scratching my head last week thinking, if you've designed a platform with plug and charge, why wouldn't you release a car with it? If Volkswagen know it doesn't work, that might be why. It might be they made the call to be like, we can't release it like this because it's not good enough. Even though, look, the CCS standard is a Frankenstein's monster of protocols and code pulled together. It's the one thing CHAdeMO's got going for it, is CHAdeMO just works. And that's one of the complications of this, in that it's another layer on top of CCS, that if Volkswagen knows it doesn't work, that might be why they opted. Because I was really scratching my head. Why would you release the ID4? And the platform has it. Like, they're able to do it. I will say one other thing as well. I read a thing last summer. It was an article about how Ford had been coping with COVID and work from home, and they profiled one of their software engineers, and she was saying, like, normally we'd all be in the office, but it hasn't slowed us down developing the Mustang Mach-E. I've got one outside my house. I go out, I drive around the block, I get home, I plug the USB in, it uploads to a secure server. All the engineers are working from home because of COVID. This was early summer. The car is on track. This is how we are building the car. We are building a car through coronavirus remotely. So the car has clearly gone through hundreds of thousands of miles of testing. And as Kyle says, I find it unbelievable that at no point did they get around to all the problems that you've had in 4 days. It's just unthinkable for Ford to make this level of mistake. And, you know, what can you do about it? You've spent all that money on a car. You're at their mercy.
Right. It just kind of underlines
the car itself shows really well, and like when journalists drive it, it gets dropped off for 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Really nice. You charge it at home, plug it in the wall. Fantastic driver, great performer. But as soon as you start pushing it, everything falls apart. At least today. Now, I've already spoken to Ford. We're getting a software update on our car, and they claim that it will fix some charging bugs and things like this. So we are going to update this Mach-E as soon as possible, and then we are going to take it on another road trip and see how it's improved. And I'm also going to use plug and charge for that one, and I'll eat the higher cost of charging as well. Still think it's ridiculous you can't link the accounts, and you know, just to test a lot of this stuff out. So yeah, ID4 coming later today. I have to jump off here in a second. So this weekend we're going to do Model Y versus ID4 versus Mustang Mach-E. However, we're supposed to get over 2.5, maybe 3 feet of snow dumped on us, literally. There's some mountain effect, and we're going to get, you know, I don't even know if we'll be able to move. So everyone's locking down. For Colorado to lock down, you know it's going to be bad.
Wow.
And, yeah, so who knows what kind of videos we'll get. If we can't get anything, the good news is this ID4 should be in our region for a while. I know plenty of people are buying them. So worst case, we'll have to delay our comparisons for another couple weeks until someone gets a customer delivery and they let us borrow their car. But yep, right. We'll see how this goes.
All right. Well, drive safe, and hopefully that test sounds really interesting. But I've been looking forward to this, and just, man, hopefully we can make it happen, or you can make it happen.
Yeah, same here. Fingers crossed. You know, but worst case, we'll see how the rear-wheel drive ID4 does in the snow, which is not going to be helpful for anyone, because anyone in the snow is going to buy the all-wheel drive one. So we're going to provide useless buying advice, worst case, which is what we do anyway.
Which I have some ID4 update news a little bit later on the show. But so speaking of news, let's see
you guys.
Okay, take care. Kyle. So speaking of news, let's get to that. See, so having previously showed us a lifestyle vehicle, a sort of bubble van reminiscent of the Toyota Previa in its exterior styling, and a commercial delivery vehicle, the now public company Canoo introduced the world to its pickup truck yesterday. Supposedly coming in 2023, with pre-ordering available in Q2 of this year, the second quarter. It's built on its proprietary skateboard and has it's very versatile design. It's hard to know exactly where to start with this thing, so let's look at some numbers. It can come with a single or dual motors, 600 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque with dual motors. They say it can go over 200 miles on a charge. We believe it has an 80 kilowatt-hour battery. That's the size of the battery in its platform previously mentioned. And its payload capacity is 1,800 pounds. So that's, you know, that's pretty stout. Size-wise, it's actually just a little bit smaller than a Ford F-150, a couple inches less wide and not quite as tall. It's also shorter. It's got with its trick bed unextended. It's bigger than a Toyota Tacoma in height and width, though it's, again, shorter, and has a shorter wheelbase at 112.2 inches. Now, normally, the bed is 6 feet, which is fine. It's the same as my old Ford Ranger bed, pretty much. But it can be extended to 8 feet. It seats 2 for sure, but see, they talk about different seating configurations in the video, so it could seat at least one more. Like all their videos, or like all their vehicles, sorry, it's designed to be. It's got steer and braking by wire, so they lose a lot of weight there, save a lot of weight. And like I said it before, it's quite versatile, and it comes with all sorts of little tricks. It has a front trunk with a cover that folds down and slides out. They give it kind of like a shelf, and there's like plenty of power outlets and USBs there. And in the back, in the bed, there's also some power outlets. You can put a shell over that bed, and you can get to it from the cab because it has a big rear window that comes down, rolls down. And not unlike the Rivian R1T pickup, it has a step that folds out of the bed, just like ahead of the rear wheel. So you can stand on that and load up the roof. It also offers some storage inside of that step. So if you get a chance, go to the bottom of the article of the post on InsideEVs.com, and you'll find a video of their executive chairman, Tony Aquila, going over the whole vehicle and showing off its many tricks. A lot of sites you could just see, it looks like it just renders and things, but no, they've actually built an actual, the first sort of prototype of that vehicle. So, Tom, you're a Tesla Cybertruck reservation holder. Is this giving you second thoughts? Does it tick enough boxes for you?
I love this thing. I really do. I think it is so badass. I love the innovation. I love the different features. Those dual folding, the sides of the bed that you can see in the picture there. The front, it's like EVs have fronts, but look what we're going to do here. We're going to make it like a workspace. A table pulls out. There's 6 outlets and 4 USB ports. It's like it's a mobile office out there. You could stand on a job site and have your laptop flipped up and be outside and still, power that and power other things. I think it's cool. This is one of the things I love about, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, about this electric vehicle evolution, you want to call it, more than a revolution. We're seeing things that, would never see with conventionally fueled vehicles. It's like the manufacturers are taking this opportunity to say, okay, since the powertrain's completely different and the energy that's stored, it's a total clean white sheet of paper. Let's explore what else can we change? What else can we improve upon? What else can we do that nobody's done before? And it's not that customers wouldn't want these features, just that nobody thought about it, and we get these tiny little incremental improvements on the existing product lines. And don't get me wrong, the manufacturers, the legacy OEMs have done a great job of improving their products. Take a look at a pickup truck today, and then look at one, from the 80s or 90s. I mean, it's like, luxurious. It has tons of features. It's great things. They've done a good job making them better vehicles. But look at what the features that this thing has. It's so cool. So yeah, I would absolutely consider it. But I've said I want to get the first all electric pickup truck that I can. So I'm not waiting. They're saying 2023. That's maybe 2024 then, because nobody really delivers these things on time when they're just ground up concepts like this. If I can get a Cybertruck before this, chances are I would. I'd probably get the Rivian if I could, but it's just a little bit out of my price range. And we also don't know where they're going to be looking at with prices on this. But hey, I might get the Cybertruck for a couple of years and then trade it, sell it, and pick up one of these, because this thing is really cool. I could see myself driving one. Martin might have a different opinion. He's not the pickup truck guy that I am here. That I as I mentioned, I use mine to plow and do a lot of things with. I'm always using my truck. I always have a pickup truck, but this thing, I love it. There's that front where you see the it doesn't even look like you're looking at the front of the vehicle, right? But there's that storage compartment. And up above where you see those 4 little lights, they're USB ports, and to the sides of both of them, there's a bunch of outlets on each side of the vehicle. So it's got some really great features.
You can make a little bar there. Just saying.
Listen, besides work sites, I mean, you're out tailgating, you can put a little grill on that. I mean, it's really cool. It's got a lot of really cool features that you just don't get on other vehicles. And that's what I was alluding to before, is that these new startups are really thinking outside of the box. I mean, look at that thing. How cool is that?
Right.
You could put that camper back on it. And I mean, that thing looks like it should be driving on Mars, not like, in the Colorado mountains. So I think it's cool.
So just to address a couple comments, says Canoo, NC says Canoo's pickup narrowing the width of the bed seems like it could be an issue. It does fit like a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and I think you can even close the back tailgate around that, which is I can't do on my truck. So that's something. So yeah, the narrowing doesn't seem to affect the ability to hold a sheet of plywood, which is kind of like the standard measuring thing for pickup trucks.
And if Dom, let me interject. It fits the plywood between the wheel wells. It's not resting on top of the wheel wells. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's great, because if you have like a gyp rock or something, I don't know, wallboard, I'm not sure what you call it here. You don't want to have some of that like propped up on a wheel well and hit bumps and it damages super easy. So someone else says no working prototypes, no innovation. Well, actually, they do have a prototype. We don't get to see it run, so I can't say for sure that it does. But we have seen the platform itself driving and doing some high-speed driving without the top hat, so to speak, on it. And so let me just give a little bit background of the company, because we hear this Canoo, and I always thought this was like just like an autonomous vehicle company, and they're kind of designing for that sort of future. It comes with sensor suites for autonomous driving, but that's not really what their thing is. They all have steering wheels. So a little background of the company: it was founded in just 2017, not long ago, under the name E-Velocity, whatever it's called, Canoo now, by Stefan Kraus and Ulrich Kranz. Both of those guys had been working at Faraday Future and left to start their own company. Kraus had worked for Deutsche Bank before as its chief financial officer, and Kranz had been at BMW. They've partnered with Hyundai Motor Company to co-develop the skateboard platform. And so we could see future Kias and Hyundais on it as well. Canoo has about 350 or so people working for them right now. It's got a pretty nice size building there in California, but it's not a big enough building for an actual factory. So I expect we'll be hearing plans about a manufacturing plant pretty soon. If they expect to get this to customers by 2023, which I'm a little skeptical of that timeline. 2023 is 2 years away, and designing a prototype and everything and doing all the work they did it super fast. But that's a totally different thing than setting up manufacturing, mass manufacturing. But I do think it'll be interesting to see what kind of pre-orders they get when the orderings open in the Q2. So Martin.
Well, look, over here, trucks are commercial vehicles, so there are tax benefits for businesses to buy them. And I think if you are self-employed as well and you buy a truck, there's probably some, I don't know what the exact tax rules are, but there's some benefits to buying commercial vehicles. Now, they also include vans as well. So maybe you don't want a van sitting outside your house, but maybe somebody would make a compromise and buy a truck because it's got maybe 2 up front, 2 back. Maybe it'll take the kids as well at the weekend, but during the week, even if you're not a workie, you could still, even if you do something that could possibly use a bed in a flatbed for you, buy a truck. But really, there's no truck culture over here the way that you have truck culture. And so that's not like even the Rivian and stuff. Cybertruck is not coming outside of North America. It's going to fail all the pedestrian crash tests. And so, we're not getting Cybertruck ever. And, and Elon doesn't want it not to have those sharp angles. And so we're not getting Cybertruck. Tesla are losing no sleep over that. It's not a big market. Rivian, have said, yeah, we'll serve Europe and UK, but right-hand drive version, UK, tiny market. So over here, I love watching you guys commentate on this because I can see how much of a big deal stuff like this is. It really isn't over here. And that's not saying that we don't have them, but it's just such a tiny percentage.
I heard it was growing though, and I looked. So I looked up in UK. Like I wanted to see what sort of American pickup trucks I could find for sale in the UK, and I didn't really see any along except for like the international version of the Ford Ranger. I think you have over there, and there's some Japanese brands with slightly smaller pickup trucks that you have over there.
Yeah, and even then, they're small by your standards and big by ours. So, so stuff like this. But just to echo what Tom said, it's so cool. Look, EVs are both easy and fabulously hard to make. It's relatively easy to buy off the shelf. Some motors, control electronics, inverters. It's all out there, really.
Right. Yeah.
But equally fabulously hard if you want to do it well and have an ecosystem. But it does open up the possibility to do stuff like this and let your imagination run wild. There's nothing really special about what is under the skin of an EV. But again, if you want to have an ecosystem and good software and all those things, to pull it all together is very hard. So that's where the challenges are going to be for these guys.
Right.
Martin, and I know I've mentioned this before, but it's amazing that, we buy 3 million pickup trucks a year in the US. And, it's hard for you to wrap your hand around that you might see one driving a day. They're everywhere on the roads here. And the number 1, number 2, and number 3 light vehicles sold in the US are pickup trucks.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. They beat any other type of car being sold. So, I mean, that's how important it is in this market, and how well I think an electric pickup truck will do if it's cool, if it has utility, and if it can perform the way that many pickup truck owners want their vehicle to perform. Although so many people buy them to drive them as cars. They never off-road, never load up the bed. They drive them to go to the supermarket to pick up their groceries. But
we don't have that many.
It's part of the culture.
We don't have that many contractors here.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly, yeah. Would be number 1 in building in the world if every pickup truck owner was a contractor. But
wow.
I mean, that's why I'm excited about the electrification of pickup trucks, because I think it's going to be able to bring electric mobility to such a huge segment of the US population that simply won't go electric until there's an electric truck option. So that's why I'm all in on Cybertruck, Rivian, Lordstown, whoever wants to build them. Get these damn things to market and put butts in seats. And then, the people that drive these are going to be like, oh, wow. And for the family car, I'm not getting the Ford Explorer, I'm getting the Rivian, R1S, it's why go back? So that's why I think it's such a big deal with these pickup trucks.
Yeah, they are a big deal. And for like people who like myself, I really got into electric vehicles for the environmental aspect. And, it's important. Pickup trucks, there's so many of them here. I mean, there's it's the one segment that really need to change as fast as possible. So I'm really looking forward to seeing pickup trucks, and, there are great products coming. This one, I'm a little disappointed by the range. 200 miles, a little over 200, maybe it's going to be 230 miles. Man, I'd just like to see more, and it will be more in the future as batteries improve, but I would just like to see a bit more to start with. That's to me, that's like the weak point of this vehicle, which seems kind of strange. My own car is like a 70, 5 miles, 80 mile, city car, but I really would like to have 200 miles or 250 miles out, really.
Yeah. And what I'll say to that, Dom, is how the energy densities, the batteries just keep improving. Yeah. I mean, this might be what they have in product planning for their vehicle on their platform now. This thing comes out, they're saying 23. I'm going to say earliest 24. That 3 years, a lot happens. That same size pack, the energy density in the cells, it might be 275 by then. It's really hard to figure out where we're going to be in as little as 3 years.
Right. So we got some battery stories coming up. So let's move on to the next one. So we'll get to those. All right. After taking forever to show any amount of interest in building a battery electric vehicle for the masses, Toyota has finally released a teaser image of the Toyota X Prologue. We expect this will be a RAV4 size vehicle in a crossover SUV shape. We'll get to see the whole thing this coming Wednesday. It's expected to be built on the eTNGA platform, like its corporate cousin, the Subaru eVoltus, which but hopefully it'll look a lot different from that car, because that's pretty special. I don't know if you have a picture you can flash of the Subaru e-Voltus there real quick, just to give an idea of.
I'll have a look.
Anyway, I'll just keep talking. This is a big deal because, of course, Toyota is the world's largest automaker still, and with only a couple of brands. Like Volkswagen Group is second, but they've got Toyota, Audi, there's a bunch of different brands. So Martin, you're a big Toyota fan.
Oh yeah,
or a critic, I should say. Do you have any hopes they can make a compelling EV at scale? This platform, I would say, isn't really a pure clean sheet electric vehicle one, though, right?
Listen, I've always said Toyota is a company of two halves. It is of exceptional engineers who, it's got such strength in depth, who can make great cars. And, you can see that they've ideologically gone for hydrogen with the Mirai, which we all agree is crazy for, they can't give that car away. But what they've done with it technologically is brilliant. Nobody should have one as personal transport, but they're brilliant. And I think they could do the same with EV. And then you've got the ideological side of the management, of the board, of the people who run Toyota, of the politics, of where it's based in the world as well, which is why they went for hydrogen. And I think that part, the marketing department, and that is the bit of the company that won with hybrids very early, they became really good at it.
Yeah.
And I won't call it a cash cow for the company, but they had hybrids to themselves for a long time. Like what's the Prius on now? Generation 5 or something? That's a wonderful vehicle. That's a great vehicle. But what I hate about Toyota is they went out of their way to publicly diss electric cars really hard. They had advertising campaigns over here with chargers covered in cobwebs. They've launched their hybrid cars with just an image of a guy standing in the middle of the desert and a charger, and him standing next to like an anonymous electric car holding the cable, because we all do that when we charge electric cars, don't we? We hold the cable waiting, and him looking at his watch, and then a Toyota hybrid speeds by, and they're like, no waiting, self-charging hybrid. And that's what I hate about Toyota, is they're a company that I feel has got enormous potential. I think if the engineers and the people who make the vehicles are allowed to go and make a great EV, they absolutely will. And I have no confidence in the people who run the company not to massively mess it up and try in some way to prolong the hybrid thing that they're really, really good at doing. Right. But they need to get over. And I fear they can't get over it because they won it. Like Toyota won hybrids. Yeah. But they are going to make themselves obsolete unless, like I say, on an ideological level, whether those people who sit around the table can say, we have to move on. Like, we have to move on and do something else and make great EVs. And nothing I see yet in the market says they're ready to do that. And they might be, because there's a long lead time on this. So they might be being like, right, let's go all in on EVs and let's not tip anyone off to what we're doing. Because I think if they devoted themselves to it, they'd be really good at it.
Right. Tom, you have a quick word to say on this?
Yeah, Martin nailed it, and I'm sure they could build fantastic electric vehicles. But they have been holding on to the hybrids with the death grip, because as Martin said, they dominated that market. They won the hybrid war. Nobody built hybrids and still builds just plain hybrids better than Toyota. At one point, they owned 80% of the worldwide market of hybrids. I'm not sure is that anymore, but I know that was a fact a couple of years ago. Think about that.
Right.
Worldwide market, 80%. What manufacturer owned that high of a segment of any type of vehicle? Maybe Tesla did it, at one point. But up until that point, so they just dominated hybrids. So of course they don't want to let go of that. And even in the press release we got a couple of weeks ago, remember when they announced that they were bringing 3 new electrified vehicles to the U.S. You read down about halfway down the press release, and all they start doing is bashing electric vehicles. They start saying how plug-in hybrids have more environmental benefits than pure electric vehicles, and that electric vehicles without subsidies don't work, and they would cost way more to operate than comparable gas cars. And they have some points with that, with the subsidies. But the thing is, the subsidies are there. Okay, stop complaining about it. They're there, so the cars do cost less right now, and the subsidies, the importance of the subsidies, is getting less and less every year. Sure. Within 4 or 5 years, we probably aren't going to need any subsidies, because the cost of the batteries, the cost of manufacturing, we're going to have cost parity, and it goes away. So for them to just kind of, on their own press release about how they're going to electrification, you could tell that they're getting dragged into it, kicking and screaming. And it's unfortunate, because as Martin said, I'm sure Toyota can build a fantastic all-electric car if the engineers were given the opportunity to.
It should be interesting to see what they come up with this Wednesday. All right, so let's move on. So just a couple of weeks ago, we were introduced to the Hyundai Ioniq 5, that automaker's first EV built on a clean sheet platform. Now it's just about Kia's turn to show us its first vehicle on that same eGMP platform. The company released a few teaser images of the vehicle that will be called the Kia EV6. It's the production version of the Imagine concept from a couple of years ago, and it's been spotted in camo testing under the codename Kia CV for some time. So this car comes with some pretty compelling numbers, of course. 311 miles of WLTP range, up to 350 kilowatts speed, fast charging. So we can add 62 miles or 100 kilometers of range in just like 4 minutes. This should be sportier than the Ioniq 5, and supposedly it will go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds in its quickest form. Now, my gut tells me not to get too excited by that figure yet until it's officially confirmed, since like the Ioniq 5 is about half that quick, really. And also, who needs a crossover with that kind of ability? It's like crazy fast. So it's officially, the official reveal happens this month, and I suspect it will be on the 21st. That would be like a Sunday night in Korea or early Monday morning here in a couple weeks. So, Martin, does this is pretty much down to the styling in some respects. Does it excite you as much as the Ioniq 5, or do you need to see more to be convinced?
No, it does, and I'll tell you why. Because Kia over here, I guess Kia where you are as well, is a value brand. I was going to say budget or cheap, but it's not. But it's come up. It used to be a cheap brand for sure. Yeah, so Kia launched in the UK in 1991, and I think it's fair to say for the first part of their life here, were not aspirational vehicles at all, and then smashed it out of the park with long warranties, changed their public image. And so that's what I'm excited about now. Hyundai, look, the Ioniq 5, look, the Kona 64 kilowatt hour is expensive. The Ioniq 5 is going to be more expensive. I'm surprised how big the price is on the Ioniq 5 from Hyundai. I'd be really surprised if this was as much, because ultimately you're asking people to start to pay around 40,000 for a Kia badge, and not sure how that's going to come across. But saying that, look, when they launched the e-Niro, when they launched the Hyundai Kona, there were 12-month waiting lists on that. Now, caveat, supply was tiny. They didn't want to sell any cars until the new EU emissions rules came in. That's not a fact, my personal opinion. They wanted a limit supply. After that, surprise, surprise. Oh, we found some down the back of the sofa. You can have yours next week. It's not, and that's not a criticism. All car makers were doing that. Why pay the fines? And if you can, and the e-Niro and the Kona are not cheap cars, and this won't be a cheap car. But I think it will be affordable, and it will have to open up a segment of the market that at the minute is being probably dominated by the likes of sort of the Peugeot, Citroens that are out there. Although this will be obviously built on a better platform, that 800 volt eGMP platform, which is you're talking pull in, get a coffee, 20 minutes later you're good to go. It looks stunning.
Right, Tom. Any opinions about the styling of this that you can make out so far?
So my opinion is I'm glad they're doing this. It kind of reminds me of how I love the Porsche Taycan. So I love the fact that Audi came out with the e-tron GT, which is basically their version of the Taycan. So this is Kia's version of the Ioniq 5, and I love the Ioniq 5. So sure, give me it in a different flavor, maybe different styling, slightly different price, and then let me decide which one that I want to get. So we can't see everything on it, but just the fact that it's an Ioniq 5 in different clothes, I think is great, because I think Ioniq 5 is going to be a great vehicle, and let's have it in a different flavor.
Right on. You can see it's kind of interesting behind that. On that last image we just saw, I lightened it up a bit with the teaser, and you can see there's like a little bit of something behind the front wheel. I know on the Kia Stinger, there's like a little styling element there in chrome, make it look like it goes faster. So this could have something like that there as well, I'm thinking. All right. So Tom, you had some time with the Volkswagen ID4 just last week, and now it looks like customers are about to get their cars. I heard from my local dealer that they're expecting to get some before the end of the month, hopefully. And I'm quite looking forward to a test drive of my own. I should mention that these are the rear-wheel drive version, and it looks like the all-wheel drive Pro S trim may be delayed. We had an Inside EV's forum member report that he got an email from Volkswagen that said, and I'll quote this: "We're writing to notify you that the estimated delivery time frame of your ID4 has changed to October-December 2021. So he'd previously been told that they were working on his car, they'd receive his order, and his car was being built. So now he's canceled his order and is biding his time and looking at competitors' cars. So, but if you're in the market for a rear-wheel drive and you have one ordered, it's coming very soon. And I don't know if you have anything either you'd like to say about this.
Well, let me jump in. One thing I will say is the ID4 that I had, the software wasn't fully baked yet. It lagged badly, and Volkswagen said they were coming up with an update soon. I do hope soon meant that real soon, and that the customers that take delivery have the fresh software, because everything worked, but it was very bad lagging. And I mean, to the point where when I first got in the car, I thought there was a problem with it. Like, I thought it was taking so long. I thought like something broke. But then I just got used to it. Okay, that's how long it takes. So hopefully that's going to be updated for the customers, because that wouldn't be a great user experience. You do quickly get used to it, which I did, but you shouldn't have to get used to it. The funny thing is, we talked to Kyle earlier, and he talked about software issues with the Mach-E, and now the ID4. I think the legacy OEMs are learning this EV thing isn't as easy as we thought it might be. We just snap the fingers, pivot, and all of a sudden make a great electric car, because this, the software end of it is hard stuff. Right. So, I think they're all kind of learning that right now.
Right.
Other than that, I think ID4 owners are going to like the vehicle. I like it. I thought it was a really good vehicle. The DC fast charging was pretty darn good. It has a good charging curve, much better than Mach-E, and a ton of interior space, drove nice. I think Volkswagen is going to do really well with the ID4.
Have you guys seen Doug DeMuro's ID4 drive?
I have not.
He says the same as Tom. Like, he's like, this is great. It's big. It's comfy. This is well put together. I like this more than a Model Y. And he starts to touch the screen. He's like, oh, this is broken.
Oh yeah.
Like, it doesn't. He points the camera towards. He's like, this isn't working. And then he's like, well, this is a great car, but you can't buy it. And then takes it for a test drive and says, this is frustrating. It's working perfectly now. I'm in some menus and it's zippy. It's instant. And I go into some bits and it just freezes. And he goes, this is frustrating because it's not repeatable. He's like, it's having moments where it just freezes, but other times it glimpses of it being perfect. So he experienced both, what you said, Tom, kind of both extremes, I guess, working perfectly and also not at all.
Yeah. What I found I had to let the car fully boot up. Like, I didn't even touch anything for the first minute or two. And then it kind of worked okay. But of course, when I first got it as a press loan, as soon as I turn it on, I'm like like touching the screen and it's not responding, and it's like, you know, almost like you got the wheel spinning, and I'm like, really? Like, you know, and then at one point a screen came up that said something like, you know, features are not available, like the screen features aren't available, and I'm like, nothing's available, like I'm not going to have a center screen. But then it loaded, and once it loaded, it was working. So it seems like they're almost there, Martin, just like what you're saying, you know, that you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, that's fine with a media car, because that happens all the time when we get these media cars before they're released to the public. This is really common. When I drove the Taycan last year in Europe, the center screen halfway through my drive just crapped out and didn't work for the rest of my drive. I had no screen, and I was lost. I didn't have navigation. I'm in Europe. I don't know where I am. I was talking to Porsche on the phone to like guide me to where to go. but that happens. But now these are arriving in dealerships, and customers are going to pick them up. That's not cool. You know, if that software if they haven't had that update, I wouldn't be happy with taking delivery with it as it is right now, as it was when I had it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, J.K. Tesla, a viewer here who I think is a regular viewer of ours, which is great. Thank you. He's driving an ID4 today, and his own arrives next week. So hopefully he'll maybe have a little report for us next week. That'd be great to hear exactly, you know, how the actual customer versions are. Hopefully they're improved over what the press has been able to drive so far. So sticking with VW just for a moment, they are having their own battery day next week, and that should be worth checking out. I suspect we'll be streaming it on Inside EVs, though I don't have all the details yet. It happens on Monday, the 15th. They're calling it Volkswagen Power Day, and I imagine they'll outline their plans to produce enough cells to power their ambitions for the whole of the VW group, which of course includes brands like Audi, Porsche, Fiat, Skoda. Apparently, they need to be able to produce 300 gigawatt hours of batteries a year by the end of the decade to meet up with that. So, right. So, and sticking with batteries, General Motors just announced yesterday that they are adopting a new super dense battery. They're working with, they've partnered with Solid Energy Systems, and they have a lithium metal battery coming out with a protected anode. I'm not exactly sure what that means technically, but what they say, that's going to double the energy density of the batteries, and I would assume that's the energy density of what's in, say, like the Bolt EV now, at 60% of the cost. So that's a big drop in cost for them, and we're not sure the timing of it, but it's it's kind of a big deal, because they've been partnered with LG, and they're still in the midst of building, their battery factory, their Ultium battery factory with LG in Lordstown, Ohio. And there's also rumors of a second plant coming in for Tennessee. So this press release, and actually it was Mark Royce was doing a session with the Washington Post yesterday when he brought this out. There was no mention of LG, so I don't know if they're still working out the details. If LG is going to, I don't know if LG is going to partner with them on that, or what the exact story is there. But I don't know. Did you read that at all, Tom? Or did you see this?
I thought I was on mute. Yeah, listen. I want to see batteries in vehicles. Right. It's for the last 10 years, I've been following this industry closely. For a few years, I used to get so excited. Every time we had battery news that new, better energy dense batteries are coming out, that this company was going to open up a factory here, there.
Right.
And, quite often it never comes to fruition. But with LG, you kind of expect that, they're one on the forefront of this. So we need batteries. We need battery factories. That it's going to be the bottleneck of the industry. So hopefully that this happens. Hopefully we see more around the world. I'm certain that the batteries themselves are going to be what is a huge problem in a couple of years, because right now all the manufacturers have these grand plans for all of these electric vehicles in 2023, 2025. I've seen so many of the manufacturers' product portfolios for the next 4 or 5 years, and I'm just wondering, do they have contracts secured. You say, well, they must because they're doing this planning, but they haven't in the past. They've come out with these cars, and then you hear all these battery supply problems. So hopefully, that we see more of news like this, and it actually comes to fruition. We get factories, we get capacity, because I could see a huge problem down the road where we could be transitioning to so many more electric vehicles. Wait till they're in trucks. We need battery cells for delivery vans, for big over the road trucks where they have these giant 500 kilowatt hour battery packs. We need production, and any news like this about new factories is good as far as I'm concerned.
Right. I kind of suspect that LG will end up making a deal with GM to manufacture these batteries for them. Because as we said, we have this other headline here. LG, they announced they're going to invest $4.5 billion in new U.S. battery plants, and they're also building. They're also doing cells. They want to do cells for Tesla. They've started a 4680 plant in Korea, I believe, already. Just trying to get the technology down to try to be able to give Tesla what they want for their vehicles.
Tesla right now is buying, I think, 90% of Panasonic's battery supply. They're buying about 20% of LG Chem's battery supply and about 10% of CATL's. So, think about that, and think about how all these other manufacturers, like the Volkswagen Group, BMW is going to have 25 electrified models by 2025. Volkswagen is going to have the same. When these dealers have not one electric car, have 10 or 15 different in their showroom, we need battery cells. So the production it's going to be a problem. I'm sure they haven't worked all that out yet.
Right, which is kind of nice to see, like advances in energy density like this. Sion Power announced that they have a 17 amp hour, prototype cell. They had like a tiny one last year, so they're making it good progress there, and they're working towards a 400 watt hour per kilogram energy density. And I think that's probably a very similar energy density to what GM is doing with solid power. It's solid energy systems. Solid Power is a solid state battery company.
Yeah, and that hasn't been third-party validated yet. It's going through the validation now, which tends to be a stumbling block sometimes.
Right, and this is also the energy rate, the same energy density ballpark of the Tesla 4680 cell. I believe that's also in like the 400 or so range watt hour per kilogram. So it's important that those numbers increase, because that means fewer resources are needed to build those cells. So you need less nickel, and so you can make a lot more batteries for a lot more cars with a lot less raw materials. So yeah, all right. So let's see, we're up to our hour a little bit. So let's move on. The electric Hummer, the SUV version, is going to debut pretty soon, April 3rd. That's great to see, and we've got some clip of it, maybe doing some winter testing. Yeah. So just really quickly, Jeep debuted I just want to say this because, man, Jeep debuted this, what is it, the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer LC, really huge blingy thing this week. It looks inside, the interior is really premium, looks really nice and everything, but man, it's so frustrating. There's no 4xe or 4xe a plug-in charge option with this yet. And so if you're looking at that and you like that, save up your money and check out this Hummer SUV when it comes out, because it's going to have all that bling, all that size, and it's going to do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. So yeah, that is a pretty nice looking interior though. But hey, while we're on Stellantis, which is who owns Jeep now, they also announced big plans to increase EV launches in Europe and US. It sounds like their CEO, Tavares, has got it together as far as EVs go. And that's something to look forward to. Tom, did you hear anything about this, or Martin?
Yeah, look, by doing the deal to get the experience from Peugeot Citroën, or PSA, Group PSA, they have instantly got themselves some EV market share and a bunch of EV knowledge in the company, because really they were a little behind. So I expect them, and they were having to do things like over here pool with Tesla to avoid fines, which is a nice big paycheck for Tesla. So that'll stop now because they'll be okay to meet those. They should be okay to meet the emissions regs without the cash going to Tesla anymore. So they look like they're pushing forward pretty hard with EVs.
Yeah, that's great to see some executives over there, and hopefully that'll really influence the direction of Jeep and Chrysler here. All right, so what else we got? We got Tesla raising prices this week. I mean, the last few episodes back, we had Tesla cutting prices like $1,000 here on this and that, but now they're continuing to yo-yo. It's the Plaid, the Model S Plaid Plus. It's going to be $10,000 more at launch. So $149,990, $150,000, let's just say.
And delayed and significantly pushed back as well.
Is it pushed back?
That's on that. Need to make sure I'm correct on that. No, you carry on, Dom.
I think I saw a date late something. Was that late 2022? It's not that late, is it? It's down a little bit farther if you scroll up a bit.
Let me just check on. So what we have on our side.
I think Martin's right. I think recently they announced this just a few months pushback, Martin. I didn't think it was that much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw it in. I thought it was sort of 3 to 4 months. There's
delivery thing there. Late 2021. Okay.
So they've gone to the end of the year on that, but that's
that's not so bad.
It's it is what it is. It's fine. It's going to be an amazing machine. Why worry too much about? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small part of the market. And I'm much more excited about like the Cybertruck coming because that's going to be like numbers, like, and make it's a huge difference. This is a super expensive, high performance. It's a great Halo car, and I'm glad to see they've got that kind of performance to brag about and get their name out there.
And hopefully we'll see the production version of the Cybertruck soon. We've been promised it for a while now. It just keeps kind of never coming, but hopefully we'll get to see that. And one of the things I want to talk about the price, Dom, Tesla does do this with their prices. They raise prices, they lower prices.
Right.
No other manufacturer does this, but that other manufacturers actually do it. We just don't realize it.
Right.
They set the prices, the MSRPs, the customer facing prices, but then they play this game with their dealer networks where they say, okay, between now and August, we're going to give you $5,000 off, whatever, a Mustang or what, typically not a car like that, but something that they're trying to move. So the prices do shift up and down all the time, for the manufacturers to say move inventory, or if there's a high demand to kind of cut down the demand. So this happens all the time. We just don't get a chance to see it. And with Tesla, you see it because there's no middleman. That the price that they post is the price everybody pays. So in that regards, it's not unusual that like every other month we seem to have another price change with Tesla. The legacy brands do that too. We just don't get to see it.
Taker 610 asks, how will Tesla sell the Cybertruck with the Plaid Plus drivetrain at less than half the price of the Model S? That is a great question. And I don't know. Volume, I guess. I don't know. I guess they're kind of on a very low manufacturing cost for the Cybertruck. That remains to be seen. It's a whole different kind of way of building a vehicle with that exoskeleton, doing a lot of the work of traditional frames. So, yeah, it remains to be seen how well that will happen. But just to go back to that price increases for a bit, I just wanted to say that the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus is up $500 to $37,490. The Tesla Model 3 Long Range All-Wheel Drive is also up $500 to $46,490, and the Tesla Model Y Long Range All-Wheel Drive is up by $1,000 to $49,990, or let's call it $50,000, because I don't know if these prices include a destination as well, which is like usually $1,000 or $1,200 or something. So yeah, but sticking with Tesla, they are doubling their full self-driving beta testers now, and a 10 by increase soon. There's so many people actually that want this, so they're rolling this out to now, the FSD beta, which is a pretty phenomenal improvement over the traditional Tesla full self-driving suite. they're going to have like a button to order on the screen now for those that they've, are going to have it, because they're not rolling out to everybody yet, but enough people out there, there's going to be like a button on the screen that you can ask for it if you want it. And I believe Motor One editor-in-chief has a Tesla Model 3 with the full self-driving option, and we are pushing him to get into that program as soon as possible, because it's going to be really interesting to see how a regular Tesla owner with the Tesla Autopilot experience, how this huge improvement, what kind of impression that makes to them, and how it affects how they drive, and just their overall impression. So I think we've bullied him into getting a mount for his car so he can, make a video for us. Yeah. So we're really looking forward to that. So a couple of really quick things to hit before we end the show. Porsche has increased its stake in Rimac Automobili to 24%. So that's interesting to see. There's rumors that the Rimac is going to buy Bugatti, actually. And I don't know if this is like leading up to that or what's going on, but behind the scenes.
Yeah, I saw that when Matteo talked about how he got a tour of the factory and was blown away by the way that the production facility was put together, and how they made some very high-end pieces of art in his and so he definitely felt, he's obviously proud of the technology that they have there, but he obviously went around and looked at Bugatti and was like, okay, we can learn a lot here. So whether they do something with kind of a shared ownership, or taking that investment, or who knows, but there's certainly a lot of love between those kind of leadership teams.
Right. And that would mean actually too that Bugatti may be an all-electric brand in the not too distant future.
Well, I mean, all brands are going to be all electric brands at some point in the future. It's when they do it, and right. it's how early do we do it? How much land grab do we do? And how much can we afford to do that? So that everyone's got to do it sometime. If you are looking at a brand like that, it could be that you decide, if you're not making a ton of money from it, and I don't know how profitable or not that brand is, right. Whether you decide, hey, we're going to bite the bullet, and that's going to be our cheerleader for electric supercars.
Right.
I mean, Rimac is selling everything they make, so.
Yeah, I mean, they're super low. I mean, they're not really building a whole lot. They've built like a dozen cars or something, the concept one, and then they haven't finished producing. They haven't started making customer copies of the concept 2 or whatever. And they haven't given us the actual name of that car yet. No. The concept, was it like the C2.
100? Yeah, like 100 versions or something like that. They're making of it.
Yeah, there will be. There will be. It's coming.
Yeah, it's a tiny limited run. So
it's so sweet, though. Oh my god. Yeah. But anyway, so going from super expensive exclusive vehicles, let's talk about this little one for a second. The Dacia Spring EV is launching in Europe with an extremely low price and a half decent range. There's some talk about the battery not being liquid cooled. I don't know. Have you heard about this much, Martin?
I know that Dacia is not being made in right-hand drive, and so I'm gutted because Dacia is that I will call that a cheap brand.
Yes.
And I know that Renault won't mind me calling that. That is a pure value play. And they've said, it'll be fine. They've said that the Spring will be Europe's lowest price road car. And so that needs to bring it in around, actually, I don't know what it'll come in around at, but if it's been in like 14 and 16,000.
Oh, really? Euros?
Yeah, then that, or maybe 18,000 euros, because you've got to, you think about the little trio of VW cars, like the Seat Me and the VW E-Up. So
this is bigger than those, though, right?
Oh yeah, this is way bigger. But if you're going to come underneath them at a price point, you're going to be at a price point where you're around that, I think. But yeah, whether they use LFP or lithium iron phosphate battery technology for this or not, I thought that'd be a no-brainer for this. But which can bring the price down. But I don't know what tech is going inside it. But it looks really cool, and I just wish they were making right-hand drive versions, because it'd be such a good second or third car to have on the driveway. But yeah, that's as much as I know about the spring.
All right, so let's call it there. So that brings us
Dominic,
to the end of it.
Before you call, I have a couple last points to make.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I know we didn't mention it in our list today, but the Chevy Bolt EV is available for incredible lease price right now if you're a Costco member in the U.S. Okay. If anybody's looking for really good prices or to lease a car that's affordable, you can get them for like $125 a month with like $100 down right now on a 36-month lease. So yeah, it's if anyone's just looking for affordable transportation, go check out the Bolt EV. Now, the funny thing is, I mentioned this when we did our podcast on the Bolt EUV and the new Bolt EV. I'm saying, I thought to myself, Chevy's going to want to get rid of the 2020 inventory before the 2021s come in. But I thought we were going to have to wait a little bit longer. These deals are available now. They're ridiculous deals. It's almost like getting a free car. All in, the 3-year lease will cost you less than $5,000. And so, if anyone's looking for like affordable transportation, check out the Bolt EV right now, the 2020. Obviously, you're not going to get that deal on the 2021. And then I just want to take a look at a couple comments that we had. Sure. Very early on, the first comment that came in, Brian Hernandez asked us, why ain't y'all driving an EV car? Thanks for showing the people y'all lying. Okay. So, in the beginning of our podcasts every week, Dominic asks us what are we driving? And, Kyle was driving at the time. He said he had the Mustang Mach-E, and I responded, I don't have anything charging up in my driveway. What we're talking about is, do we have any press loaners? Do we have any new cars that we haven't talked about yet? Of course, I have a Tesla Model 3. It's my car in my driveway. And I actually did drive a friend's 2021 Model Y this week, but we're not ready we're going to do some range testing and some charging testing. So Brian, I do have an EV car in my driveway. I'm not lying. Okay. So that's number one. And then I want to go down to really quick. Donald Parrish asked us early on also, I'd like to see more ChargePoint DC chargers out there. The new ones that can share power to either give 2 cars 60 kilowatt or 1 car 120 kilowatt make a lot of sense. So Dominic,
you had a ChargePoint story this week, right?
Yeah, we had a ChargePoint story, but not about this. It was about they were partnering, for to provide the level 1 charging. Level 2. I'm sorry, level 2 charging. Sorry, but the reason, you threw me off, Dom. Stop throwing me off. Donald, I agree. They make some good equipment, but you have to understand the business model for ChargePoint is what's holding back their DC fast charge proliferation. And that's because when you have these companies like Electrify America and EV Go and Greenlots, they install their own equipment. And even Blink gives you the option of buying it, or they'll come and install it and maintain it. And that takes all the cost off the property owner. What ChargePoint does is they just sell the equipment to a property owner, and then they manage the back end of it. So there's almost like no skin in the game for ChargePoint, because they've sold the equipment, and now you're the property owner, you manage it. And that's why we don't see a lot of ChargePoint DC fast chargers, especially these Express 250s that you're talking about. Because a property owner, like, let's say I own a commercial property in Montclair, New Jersey. Let's say I wanted to install a bank of these. It might cost me $300,000 or $400,000 to buy the equipment and install it. It might even be more. And they're putting all that on my shoulders. Now, let's say my property was a property that Electrify America identified as a good location for DC fast chargers. They would come to me and say, look, we just need you to lease us 5 parking spaces. We'll pay for everything. You have to pay for nothing. And so that's the difference in why you don't see a lot of ChargePoint DC fast chargers. Their business model is different than the other networks, and they put the cost on the property owner, whereas the other networks pick up all that themselves and then maintain the stations moving forward.
Interesting. Thanks for that. All right. So that brings us to the end of our show. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. If you have any comments on any of the topics on today's show, you can comment on the Inside EV's podcast post, the YouTube comment section, or on the Inside EV's forum podcast thread. Don't forget, you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Tom Mologney is at Tomolog, Martin Lee is at EV News Daily, and Kyle Connor is at Out of Spec. I'm at Dominic_Y. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.